Hello and welcome everybody. Today we are going to explore the subject of a mythology part of the earth which in fact have a seed of truth in it. Lemuria and Atlantida are part of human history, and today we are going to find out more about it. The information currently circulating about this civilization is shrouded in so many theories, legends and speculation that it's really difficult to detect what else can be considered an objective truth. In the following, I will try to highlight, however, the most permanent elements supported by historical references. The best known historical records of Atlantis are the writings of Plato, Critias and Timaeus, dated around 318 before Christ. But there are other historians of antiquity who have referred Atlantis, much less consistent than of the Plato, and therefore less known. The historian Cedric Leonard indicate that the ancient Hellanicus and Herodotus mentioned Atlantis even 100 years before Plato. The source of Plato's information is the records of Solon, one of the 7 sages of ancient Greece. Solon had turned to Greek historiographers and Egyptian archivists and even to the prelates of the Egyptian goddess Nethi, making notes. His notes remain in Dropides, Plato's great-grandfather. Solon thus learned that Atlantis was a huge power of extraordinary beauty coming from another world, located on a large territory in the Atlantic Ocean. The political system of Atlantis was hereditary monarchy, in which kings became fearsome tyrants. Solon reports that due to terrible internal conflicts, the territory has completely sunk. It is interesting that we find the same theme in some people's story from Asia, South America and Africa. The historian Cedric Leonard, 4,000 years before Christ, points out that the Egyptian Book of Death states the king Thoth ruled over the western island, which was destroyed by water, and brought the surviving rulers to the shores of Egypt. In Vishnu Purana, 2,000 years before Christ, there are references to Atala, the white island in the Western Ocean. In Mahabharata, in the book of Karna Parva, around 600 before Christ, it is mentioned that at the end of a war that lasted 10 years, Atala and all its inhabitants sank in the Western Ocean. It is also significant to note that on the American continent we find many places whose names indicate a very possible connection with the ancient civilization of Atlantis. Here are some of them: Atlan, Aztlan, Atitlan, Mazatlan, Azatlan, Astalan, and may include the name of Atlantic Ocean as well with the name of the city of Atlanta, the capital of the state of Georgia. Information about Atlantis was also obtained in a less common way, that of clairvoyance. Among the most noteworthy information of this kind are those provided by Edgar Cayce, because the perception of this famous medium provide to be amazingly accurate in thousands of other cases that could be verified. Edgar Cayce's vision described Atlantis as a very technologically advanced society, with high-performance aircraft, laser energy, atomic energy, and the power generated by certain huge crystal were used. Cayce states that each crystal was at least 6 meters high and that these crystals were placed in series of 3, thus producing a vortex of high-power cosmic energies. However, this huge energy came to be used for war purposes, which eventually led to the complete destruction and sinking of the continent around 10,500 years before Christ. Another famous clairvoyant, Rudolf Steiner, who was also one of the most important exponents of occultism in the 19th and 20th century, said that the most advanced Atlanteans were grouped under the leadership of a high priest and were subject to a very special spiritual education, which allowed them to fully know all the mysteries and understand the divine power. This would be the group from which, according to his theory, descended the first royal priest of the Aryan race. In his book, The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life, the initiate Durunvalo Malkizek states that the territory of Atlantis rose from the ocean 60 to 70,000 years ago, within highly advanced civilization that has developed over tens of thousands of years. The highest level of spiritual evolution were the so-called exalted beings or enlightened masters. At some point in Atlantis, however, science began to be misunderstood, and this led to a schism towards spiritual laws that eventually caused the terremo's cataclysm. The author of the book says that with the sinking of Atlantis, there was a terrible accident of slipping the dimension of reality and entering a strange time fault between two quanta of time. The phenomenon still produced strong anomalies in the area we call Bermuda Triangle. In the cultures of many peoples, there are also references to a civilization much older than Atlantis, namely the Lemurian civilization. However, the strictly historical information about Lemuria is practically non-existent, the official concept being that the existence of Lemuria is only a myth. Among the few references in ancient texts that may have referred the existence of Lemuria, we mention the Hindu sacred writings Rigveda or Ramayana, which say that in ancient time there was a huge territory in the eastern of Indian Ocean. There lived people of sun worshippers who were destroyed by a huge cataclysm, and their territory sank into the depth of the water. Some of those who survived later managed to reach India, being in fact the first Brahmins to teach the people. The same time of story appear in the creationist myth of Popol Vuh and the Codex Torona, text of the Mayan civilization, or in the legends of the inhabitants of Hawaii. The reality of Lemurian civilization was supported especially in the certain spiritual and initiatory circles. Rudolf Steiner, for example, claimed that there were esoteric works according to which Lemuria, or the Mu continent, was the mother continent, the cradle of mankind, on which cruel tragedy fell, so that in one night it would have sunk. Renowned researcher and explorer Helena Blavatsky, the founder of Theosophical Society, said that during her exploration through Tibet, she found in the sacred monasteries of Tibet that so-called Mahatamas, great enlightened souls, hold a manuscript entitled the Book of Dzyan. About it, the sages said that it is an ancient text from Atlantis that mentions the evolution of humanity through several races, including the Lemurians and Atlanteans. In her book, The Secret Doctrine, published in 1888, Helena Blavatsky argued that countless human races have succeeded each other on Earth before the one we know and belong to. In the ancient Tibetan tradition, especially in Kalachakra system, the system related to what is considered to be fundamental spiritual focus of humanity, or the realm of the sages, called the Shambhala, source of the divine happiness, has a very special place. Ancient Tibetan and Indian texts say of these people of immemorial antiquity of planet sages that originally came from certain celestial rulers descended from the stars. The oldest Tibetan secret texts, Kanjur and Tanjur, which have been accessible and translated only to a tiny extent compared to the huge volume of information they contain. For example, Kanjakur alone have over 300 volumes, records that in the distant past the heavenly rules came to earth, and some of them remain here to guide mankind over time. Thus, they are the ones who have imprinted in us in an invisible way all the great beneficial ideas and currents that have impelled mankind, and they, too, have often acted to maintain planetary balance. There is evidence that in cyclical periods, ages marked by high spiritual level, Shambhala was physically visible, while throughout the ages dominated by darkness of ignorance, this realm of sages could be only accessible in the etheric plane, in a parallel plane located at the frequency of manifestation of superior physical reality. And with all of this, I want to tell you that our mankind history is huge, complex, and very old, and the best for us is to remember it in the most accurate way, because the one who don't know their history is condemned to repeat it. But it's not our case, because now we have the basis and we will find out more about it in future episodes. For example, so far I learned about this ancient history from the writings of Rudolf Steiner and other authors as well, and you can do it too. Never stop to find out more about you and things around you. And never forget to have every day a very, very nice day.